Castlevania, Transylcrania, Animania, Marcus Twainia, Basil Trachea. It was one of many household names that I never experienced as a Mario-reared youngling, but by the time I was getting knee-deep into survival horror, the shapely, sexy image of its classic curvy logo materialized in my mind like Kate Beckinsale from Underworld.
And our love is meant to be. Why doesn't she understand this?
So you can imagine my surprise to discover that it wasn't a survival horror game at all. Sure, it's got a horror theme that draws references to everything the genre has featured, but it's not scary. It's basically
Gothic Metroid.
It's funny because it's true.
Castlevania is an action game that demands a mastery of its extreme combat built around enemy patterns and weapon specs. Sometimes it's divided into levels, and sometimes it's fused into a namesake Metroidvania. Although let's be real here, Metroid contributed way more, if not everything, to the genre. Castlevania tells a tale that spans 1,000 years, with each chapter bearing Zelda amounts of resemblance to each other, like one big family. The Belmont clan, to be precise, and their genealogical struggle to centennially slay Count Dracula in the depths of his sprawling Romanian manor.
What a mansion!
Castlevania is Castle-fucking-vania, and it's time for a revamp.
Oh, yes!
The brilliance of 2D Castlevania is one of those legacies that will be ported to every contemporary platform until the end of time. Destined to repeat itself like its own plot. And like everything else in our lives lately, it's just begging to be immortalized on the Nintendo Switch. The Anniversary Collection is... it's good. The original NES trilogy, the Game Boy sub-series, the spin-off Kid Dracula, the Forgotten Bloodlines, and the lovely Super Castlevania 4. It's good, but one more title would have made it perfect. One can only hope that they'll do a second collection with all the Metroidvania titles. As for my ideal 2D Castlevania game, I think I speak for a lot of Vaniacs when I say I'll take anything at this point. It's been ages since the last one. Obviously, a Metroidvania is preferred, all the classic items and weapons, maybe a few new ones, and the ability to swap between them. An upgradable whip with 360-degree radius, and boss battles that make use of all the classic ghoulies they reference. Cut off Medusa's head, set Frankenstein's monster on fire, and a final showdown with the Count exploiting all the cliché strengths and weaknesses of vampires. Also, how has the devil never been a boss? I mean, I guess he's more religion than horror, and because he would outrank Dracula?
I'm a fucking demon.
But maybe an entry where Satan is the true villain, like how Hades upstaged Medusa in Uprising? That's a cool mid-game twist. And what would a boss fight with the devil even be like? Also, they could possibly take inspiration from the traditional story of Dracula, in which the Count bleeds from Transylvania into England and is combated by a group of people led by Professor Abraham Van Helsing. Maybe one of those people is a Belmont. And also, not only would these elements be awesome for classic Castlevania, but for the next dimension too. Castlevania has a strange history in 3D. The first crack was for the N64, and it was a bland game with a pleasantly spooky atmosphere that was made even more incongruous by the hardware, like one of those weirdly dark kid shows.
You're full of organs, aren't you?
Or weirdly kiddie dark shows.
I hate you.
Hate away, sister. Hate away.
Most others play like Devil May Cry games, but I actually cannot fault them for taking that direction because, again, they're action games. I'm just thankful they didn't hoard us with the Dynasty Warriors approach. My ideal 3D Castlevania game is basically a 3D Metroidvania a la Metroid Prime with the classic Castlevania premise. I don't care which Belmont they choose to set it on, I just want to explore a massive 3D reimagining of Dracula's castle, perched above an open-world Transylvania. I want a big, badass Castlevania adventure. With a sandbox, light RPG elements, NPCs, intricate side quests, collectibles, Z-targeting, and any translatable ideas I had for 2D. And what I really want is a heavy, healthy dose of survival horror. Limited resources, crazy puzzles, a deep story, and most of all, a super spooky atmosphere. I mean, it's Castlevania. Like I said, it's horror, but it's not scary, and I feel like it should be. I'm sure Konami can find the damn resources to make a scary game. Just a hunch. Castlevania deserves more exposure in the world. It's a member of video game royalty. It sold 20 million games, and it's one of the few things left about vampires that doesn't suck.
But that suit she wore!
Yeah, she looked hot. What about it?
You do know that I own the cardboard stand.
So I just feel they should do more with it, and that cool-ass Netflix series indicates they might. Arrange a huge compilation of the renowned soundtrack for a live recording, and release it on vinyl and iTunes.
What music they make.
And since Konami owns DDR, perhaps a crossover? And hey, Castlevania RPG? Huh? And this too, I guess. Compile the lore into one of those awesome Dark Horse books that have been coming out lately. Merchandise the shit out of that bitch with Castlevania pinball machines and bobbleheads and religious relics, and are you a die-hard Castlevania fan? Well, prove it. Take that love to the grave with your very own Castlevania coffin.
Available in 6 designer colors.
And it's 2019 and we still don't know who the series creator is. You know, back in the day, studios didn't want their staff to get poached, so they didn't always credit them, and so we still don't know who made the original Castlevanias. It's not even about us wanting to know, it's just fucked up to withhold credit and public recognition from a person for their own work. But are any of us surprised? Would any of you disagree if I said the biggest, baddest, most villainous vampire sucking the life out of its own employees and customers and franchises is...
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
What a horrible night to be a Castlevania fan. The Switch collection is just okay, and my proposal for a 3D game is as impractically romanticized as everything else I do on this show. But hey, it shall rise again. After all, what is a game? A wonderful pile of mechanics. Did that joke land?
Your words are as empty as your soul.